During a flight home, a woman starts complaining about a severe headache and asks for help. But when the flight attendant looks into it, she finds something that makes her urgently call the pilot. Flight 312 was gliding smoothly at 30,000 feet, and most passengers were settled in, enjoying movies or music with their headphones on. But Jessica Davis was different. She sat upright, pressing her hands to her head, her face twisted in pain. Every few moments, she'd shut her eyes tightly, her body stiffening as waves of severe pain swept over her. Her silent suffering stood out against the calm hum of the plane, creating a tense atmosphere around her. What was causing her so much pain? Jessica had just finished a 3-week volunteer mission in Central America, where she helped set up mobile clinics in remote villages. As a nurse practitioner, she had devoted her career to providing healthcare in areas that needed it most. This trip was especially tough due to the rough terrain and lack of basic facilities, but it was also rewarding. She worked closely with local health workers, sharing her skills and learning about traditional healing methods. The mission had been extended when an outbreak of dengue fever hit the region, and Jessica stayed to help, treating patients and training volunteers. By the time she boarded her flight home, she was tired but proud of her work, eager to see her family. She missed her husband and 2 young kids dearly during the mission, which had kept her away for nearly a month. Every night, after long days of work, she would video call them, sharing stories and listening to the little details of their daily lives. These calls were the best part of her evenings, reminding her of the love that waited for her back home. As the plane took off, Jessica thought about the surprise she had for her children. She had picked up handmade toys from a local market, bright wooden puzzles for her 5-year-old son, and a set of handmade dolls for her 8-year-old daughter. She imagined their excitement when they saw the gifts and looked forward to a quiet evening with her husband, sharing the challenges of her trip and finding comfort in his support. As the plane flew above the clouds, Jessica struggled with a worsening headache. What started as mild discomfort quickly turned into a sharp, pulsating pain, like a tight band squeezing her head. Each throb sent stabs behind her eyes, making it hard to concentrate. The bright screen only intensified her agony, forcing her to cover her face with her hands. Despite trying to focus on the in-flight movie, the pain wouldn't let up. Finally, she couldn't take it any longer and pressed the call button for the flight attendant. Carly, the flight attendant, promptly approached her with a friendly yet concerned expression. "Hello, I noticed you called for assistance. How can I help you today?" Carly asked, positioning herself to be at eye level with Jessica, ensuring her voice was soothing and calm. Jessica attempted a weary smile, clutching her head slightly. "I'm sorry to trouble you, but I have a horrible headache. It's quite severe, and nothing seems to help." Carly nodded understandingly, her training kicking in as she assessed Jessica's discomfort. "I'm sorry to hear that. Let me get you some water and perhaps an ice pack for your head. Have you had anything to eat or drink recently that might have triggered this?" "No, nothing unusual," Jessica replied, shaking her head slowly, which seemed to exacerbate her pain. "I've just been trying to rest, but the pain is overwhelming." "Okay, I'll be right back with some water and an ice pack. Also, if you're comfortable with it, I can check if there are any pain relievers available," Carly offered, her tone both professional and compassionate. "That would be great, thank you," Jessica said, managing another weak smile. As Carly turned to fetch the supplies, she couldn't help but notice the paleness of Jessica's skin and the slight tremor in her hands. Something didn't seem right. Jessica's skin was unusually pale, and there were faint dark circles forming under her eyes. There was an odd rash on her head where her hair was a little thinner, but Carly couldn't see much without getting uncomfortably close. However, Jessica's breathing seemed slightly labored too. "Are you feeling any other symptoms?" "You don't look so good," Carly asked, her concern growing. Jessica hesitated. "Actually, now that you mention it, I feel a bit dizzy and my vision is starting to blur." Carly's concern deepened as she listened to Jessica describe her additional symptoms. She knew these could be signs of something more serious than a simple headache. Dizziness and blurred vision can be concerning, especially with your headache. "Have you experienced anything like this before?" Carly asked, maintaining a calm demeanor despite her growing worry. "No, this is all new to me," Jessica replied, her voice tinged with anxiety. "It's really quite scary." Carly gently reassured Jessica, "We'll take good care of you. We're trained for situations like this, and I'll make sure everything is ready when we land. I'll inform the captain right away about your condition." "Thank you. I appreciate it," Jessica replied, her breathing labored. "I just returned from a volunteer mission in Central America, setting up clinics in remote villages." Carly's attention sharpened at the mention of Central America. "That's important information, Jessica. I'll speak to the captain immediately about our options," she said, maintaining a calm tone. "Please rest, and I'll handle everything." Jessica nodded. Carly quickly headed to the cockpit, moving swiftly but calmly to avoid alarming other passengers. She knew that communicating with the captain was vital, especially since Jessica's recent travel could suggest exposure to rare infections. Her severe symptoms indicated a potential issue beyond their immediate medical capabilities. Upon entering the cockpit, Carly quickly relayed the critical details to the captain. One of our passengers is experiencing severe symptoms that started during the flight. She recently returned from a volunteer mission in Central America, she explained. The captain listened closely, his face turning serious. Got it. I'll contact air traffic control and arrange for medical help when we land. We need to descend quickly to get her the care she needs. Thank you, Captain, Carly replied, relieved by the quick action. She returned to Jessica and reassured her. The captain's arranging everything for our landing. Help will be ready when we arrive. Jessica managed a faint smile. Thank you, you've been a real help. But then, her condition suddenly worsened. Her speech became slurred, and her arm grew weak, alarming Carly even more. Jessica, can you tell me how you're feeling? Carly asked, keeping calm but observing closely. It feels like my head is splitting and my arm feels heavy, Jessica mumbled, her left arm limp. Realizing these could be signs of a stroke, Carly quickly pressed the call button again. Captain, I think the passenger might be having a stroke. We need to land immediately. We're making an emergency landing. Keep her stable and update me, the captain replied. Carly stayed by Jessica's side, offering reassurance. We're doing everything we can, Jessica. Stay still. Help is on the way. As the plane made an emergency landing, paramedics were already waiting by the runway. Jessica, still conscious but growing increasingly weak, was quickly and carefully transferred to a stretcher and taken directly into an ambulance. Carly briefly relayed Jessica's symptoms and her recent travel history to the medical team, emphasizing the urgency. In the ambulance, paramedics worked quickly to stabilize Jessica as they rushed her to the hospital. They noticed a rash on her head, likely from an insect bite, but suspected there was more to her severe headache. Upon arrival, Jessica was immediately taken to the emergency department, where doctors swiftly began their assessments and hooked her up to monitors. Dr. Abigail Hughes, the lead physician, ordered a CT scan to check for strokes or abnormalities and requested a full set of blood tests. Jessica was quickly scanned while a nurse drew blood for further analysis. Neurologist Dr. Cameron Price evaluated Jessica, considering possible infections due to her recent travel. He recommended starting treatment for stroke symptoms and covering potential tropical infections. While waiting for the test results, Jessica received IV fluids and medications. Dr. Susan Choi, an infectious disease specialist, joined the team, suggesting tests for tropical illnesses like dengue and Zika. She examined the rash and believed it was from a mosquito bite. The CT scan results showed no bleeding but indicated some brain swelling, possibly from an infection or inflammation. The scan doesn't show a stroke, but we're not out of the woods yet, Dr. Hughes informed the team. Let's keep her under close observation and wait for the infectious disease panels and other blood work to come back. But those results came back negative as well. Dr. Hughes was stumped. As the attending emergency physician, he was determined to uncover the root cause of her distress. The team had ruled out common and even rare tropical infections, and there was no evidence of a stroke or bleeding on the brain scan. Yet Jessica's severe headache, dizziness, and neurological symptoms were escalating, not improving. The medical team convened to discuss the unusual case. As they reviewed Jessica's symptoms and her recent travel history again, Dr. Hughes remembered a lecture he attended at a medical conference that discussed unusual neurological presentations linked to environmental factors. An idea sparked in his mind. Let's go over everything once more, Dr. Hughes suggested, turning to the team. Jessica came directly from her mission in Central America, where she was exposed to various environmental conditions. Have we considered all possible environmental factors, including toxins or exposure to unusual substances? Dr. Susan Choi, an infectious disease specialist, suggested that they might be dealing with something unusual, like heavy metal poisoning or exposure to toxins not covered by their initial tests. Inspired by this, Dr. Hughes ordered more thorough toxicology tests, while Dr. Price, a neurologist, interviewed Jessica about her environment during her mission. Jessica mentioned working near mining sites and using local water sources that sometimes tasted strange. She recalled occasional nausea after drinking the water, which she had attributed to the heat. Dr. Price took note of this, considering possible contamination from the mining operations. Jessica also mentioned that some local workers had felt unwell, but thought it was due to tough working conditions. This new information prompted Dr. Hughes to consult an environmental health specialist who reviewed similar cases. Meanwhile, Jessica was moved to a specialized unit for closer monitoring and supportive care. The specialist suspected thallium exposure, a heavy metal found in mining waste that can cause severe neurological issues. When the results of the new toxicology test came back, they confirmed the presence of thallium in Jessica's system, offering both relief and concern to the medical team. As the chelation therapy commenced, the medical team monitored Jessica for any signs of improvement or adverse reactions. Her vital signs, including heart rate, blood pressure, and neurological status, were closely watched. The first 24 hours were critical as the body began to process and remove the thallium. To their relief, Jessica responded well to the treatment. In the following days, Jessica's headaches eased, and her symptoms improved. Her speech became clearer, her muscle weakness decreased, and the rash from a mosquito bite faded with natural ointment. Still, the medical team knew she'd need long-term care. Thallium poisoning could have lasting effects, so Dr. Price set up follow-ups with a neurologist and a toxicologist, along with psychological counseling for the trauma. An investigation revealed that nearby mining operations had improperly disposed of toxic waste, causing thallium contamination in the area where Jessica worked. The company faced penalties and was required to fund clean water projects. Thanks to Carly's quick action, Jessica's illness was identified in time, leading to a broader investigation that protected others. Carly's role as a flight attendant proved invaluable, showing the importance of vigilance in public service roles. What do you think of this story? Let us know in the comments section. I hope you like this story. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.